At 4:30. April 1, 2011 meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners. And as always, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I'll do the invocation if you'll join me in prayer. God, thank you. Our mountains are waking up from a cold winter of dormancy. The bulbs are breaking the ground with blooms and flowers. The trees and shrubs are budding out, preparing for new leaves and other vegetation. Our grass is turning green for another season of growth. We are blessed to live in a place that has 4 seasons that we can enjoy. Thank you for these changes that help us further appreciate the cold, the cool, the warm, and the hot weather we have here. As we enjoy the weather and how unique it can be from year to year, remind us that each one of us is a unique gift. We're all different, but we all have individual fingerprints, DNA, mind, and goals in life. Help us to respect, acknowledge, and celebrate our differences. Assist us in efforts to protect and preserve and increase this wonderful mix of weather, beauty, individuals that you have given us a chance to live and operate in. And God, thank you for the chance to serve. Thank you for the opportunity to have meetings where people have questions, have concerns answered, and try to do policies that help everybody. Amen. The next order of business will be an ethics reminder. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the Commission, it's the duty of every commissioner to avoid both actual and possible conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before us today? If not, we will proceed to public comment. The time limit for comment before the commission is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you can leave any questions along with your name, address, phone number, or email with the county manager. Commissioners are not expected to comment on matters during public comment. This is our opportunity to hear from you and what is on your mind. Comments should be limited to subjects that are within the jurisdiction of the Commission and pertain to matters upon which we may act. Any individual speaking during public comment shall address all the commissioners. Any polling of board members is inappropriate. Persons addressing the Commission are expected to observe the decorum of our chamber and be respectful to everyone in the room. Any person who willfully interrupts, disrupts, or disturbs the session will be asked to leave the meeting. And the Commission reserves the right to deny public address on any subject previously presented to the Commission. Do we have any public comment tonight? Yes, sir. If you'll give your name and where you're from, sir.
I'm Charles Weichel. As you well know, I'm from the 18 area, Riceville community. And we're still organizing as a community with our concern about the development that you're well aware of. We call ourselves advocates for Riceville, and we hope that you understand that we're going to keep this alive. I think that at some point the commissioners themselves will have to address this at some juncture. I do not quite see the Board of Adjustments as the final process. And as you also know, you probably heard the news, we wish to present to you a petition of 864 to 900 names that we have. More keep coming in. And at this time, I'll ask them to present that.
Thank you, sir. We'll make
to
this
you
part of our
folks.
minutes.
And please, as you think about this, think about our county here in western North Carolina. As I've said before, as you well know, you've lived in it a long, long time, as I have. It's such a beautiful area. And when we speak of development, I have no problems with that. And this land that we know of as Coggins property, we realize will be developed to some extent. And what we're asking is a reasonable development. What you see now is an unfolding of the petition to give you some idea of the number that we've received. And as I said, we're still continuing to receive petitions. And do at your leisure, if you wish, look over these names. I think it would get boring after a while, but nevertheless, look them over. Some of them may be people you know. But most of all, I want you to think hard and well upon not only the issue of this development, but of developments that are going to come your way. And I know there are difficult decisions always that have to be made. Not all developments are good, not all developments are bad, but they will come, and we understand that. And we ask that you're well, you institute good judgment on all things, as I'm sure you will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Weichel. We will make the petition part of our record. Thank you for delivering it. Yes, sir.
Hi, I just have a quick
Could you
comment.
give your name and where
Yeah,
you
my
live?
name is Dr. Bernard Schechter,
Mr.
and I
Schechter.
live in River Run, right opposite this proposed development. And I just have a question to pose to the commissioners. It's something that I don't understand, and I've spoken to a few other people, and we don't seem to understand it. Here is this proposed, I don't want to sound melodramatic, but monstrosity proposed for the neighborhood. And you've heard, over the last couple of months, commissioners, you've heard, the various people speaking about why they feel this should be looked at very closely. What I don't understand, and I'm asking if I could get an explanation. You're an elected body of officials, elected bodies or to do the will of the people, the electorate. The Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board, to my knowledge, are not elected bodies. They're appointed bodies. And I don't understand how this developer can bypass the commissioners, the elected body, and go around you, and the next time he's going to go to the Board of Adjustment and ask for approval of the various things he's looking for, zoning changes, etc. Why is it that our elected body doesn't have the ability to make a decision on this? Does anybody want to give me an answer, or can they give me an answer?
In my discretion, I'm going to ask Mr. O'Connor to address at the end of public comment. Any public comment you wish to make, I'm glad to do it. We will answer your question
Okay,
tonight.
again, it just doesn't seem fair. That's my last comment, okay, that elected officials who are to do the will of the people by being elected don't get to be in this process the way that appointees do. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Doctor. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir. Ian? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Commissioner, I've given you a copy of the comments that I'll be reading so that the rest of the community can have the benefit of that. We can focus on what we're against.
Your name, Ian, you go ahead.
I'm sorry, my name is Ian Booth. I'm the director of the nonprofit Sustainable Now. And since 1999, Sustainable Now has focused on establishing Buncombe County as a regional sustainability capital. And most of us in the room say that we want a sustainable future, although a lot of us are not exactly sure what that means. I've also lived on the old Coggins farm for 10 years and have been watching the recent activity through the eyes of land use policy and what this process would look like in a truly sustainable community. Our current land use policy is such that a proposal to put a mixed-use development that the neighbors strenuously oppose, obviously, on a pristine, historic family farm in a county that is already suffering from a shortage of available farmland, led one planning board member to say, "This is exactly what we have been asking for." In that light, Sustainable Now has organized the Four Futures Symposium. We'll present an expanded overview and a case study, a model of how we and other communities would think through this very same situation if we were really being sustainable. This model will look at a wide range of considerations that are absent from the decision-making process today. We'll look at a model with benefits that far exceed those of our current process, one that also minimizes lost opportunities and unintended consequences that are often irreversible, as we'll see at the symposium. A model that addresses the reality that land use, especially farmland, will be a defining issue in public policy and in local elections from here forward, one that creates a legacy we can all be proud of. I would also like to say that in response to the invitation we sent out, I did have an email from Josh O'Connor today saying that he and the director of the subdivisions office, I believe, will be attending the symposium, and I'd like to invite the commissioners and other members. We have had a grant that enables us to invite 10 county members as our guests to the symposium, and I think you'll find it extremely enjoyable and insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Booth. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir, in the back, and then we'll have you in the front row after him.
Thank you, folks. My name is Ron Ainspan, and I'm here to represent an organization called the Coggins Conservation Project. I know this has been a difficult proposal for a number of people, and in the light of it not getting acrimonious, we are committed to finding a way to bridge the divide between the current developers, the developers' current plans, and the concerns of the nearby community. As a foundation for that, our team is undertaking a campaign to support the establishment of a large conservation easement on the farm. I am personally concerned about the future of this land. It has been my home and has great scenic beauty to offer. But in a broader sense, I'm an advocate for the preservation of farmland and promotion of a vibrant agricultural economy in Buncombe County. Some of the features of the planned development incorporate noble social goals, and I sympathize with the feelings of the members of the development who have told me that the land cost is too high. But while I applaud the team's efforts, I question the appropriateness of the project scale in its current location. At its current size, the project will assuredly disrupt the character of the surrounding community, and this can happen with new projects. But having sat with and listened to neighbors and the development team, what we as a conservation project are proposing as an alternative represents an attempt to gain a solution acceptable for all parties. An agricultural easement on 75 acres of the northern part of the property, coupled with a significantly reduced development scale, would accomplish several things. First, it would reduce the financial obligations of the developer. Second, it would preserve the pristine nature of much of the land and reserve a place for agriculture in its future. And third, it would leave a development in place at a scale much more palatable to the surrounding neighborhood and more in line with current infrastructure. And finally, it would net the seller her desired financial outcome. It could also show our ability on a county level to include the priorities of many of the stakeholders and perhaps provide a model for similar decision-making in the future. As the Coggins Conservation Project, we have produced an online platform as a central place for everyone interested to get information and give input to the effort. Our website is now live and will be expanding. You can find it at cogginsconservation.org. We are moving forward with the belief that the ultimate potential of many people working together should not be underestimated. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Yes, sir, on the front row. Who wants to speak after this gentleman? Reverend Landis and then Mr. Rice. You can come on up right now if y'all want to so we can get front row there.
My daughter's wanting a few seconds of fame, I think.
Good.
So my name is Pepe Acebo, and this is my daughter, Livia. And I am familiar with the property, the Coggins Farm property, from my days at Warren Wilson College as a student there. And I am also familiar with some conservation efforts in the Highlands and Cashiers area that led me to go down a road of exploring conservation easements as an investment avenue. And so I've been talking with the director of the Highlands Cashiers Land Trust and with other folks in the community about the option of an entirely a solution that conserves the entire property. And so I just want to keep out there that there is an option to conserve the entire property and have that be backed by significant funds. And I certainly support anything in between the current proposed development and total conservation of the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sabo. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Landis.
Hi, I am Reverend Lisa Landis, and I'm going to give kudos, congrats, and all that kind of good stuff for the PEG funds, the Public Education and Government funds, being well utilized to bring some more prestige to our community with our government channels getting some more awards. And I had wanted to talk, I've been talking about business and corporate welfare and everything like that, and I had told you about a grant in Transylvania County, and it was going to a corporate business, and I had seen that that there was something about new business with small business. And the 40 jobs that would be created with a $50,000. And it's like, how many millions did we give in credits to get approximately the same jobs brought into the area? And how many of these jobs brought into the area are dealing with, could be hazardous materials, and how much cleanup are we doing with the corporate businesses that have, fled and left a whole bunch of junk to be cleaned up. So my plea is for small business and the funding of small businesses and the importance of small businesses. And we're talking here about this land, and I know that there was quite a few, I don't know, 1 million, 2, 3, I don't know the exact figure that you had in what the county had purchased for the easements that they were talking about to beautify it. So, you know, it's like, okay, well, which way are we going to go? Are we going to be, you know, all happy, or are we going to be, you know, the corporate welfare patting on the back, and, you know, very few people are getting supported. I'm hoping I'm making a little bit of sense there. And I'm not going to do it, but I was going to do it, but I'll do it, and I'll tell you that it's April 1st. So I was going to say that there was a whole bunch, quite a few of the government employees that were arrested, and that there's several federal indictments coming down. But like I said, it's April 1st, so I figured I'd, you know, enjoy the joke, and this is the only time I can do that, although I hope it's not the only time I can say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry? Any other public comment after Mr. Rice? Go ahead, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's good to be around here for many years. You get to see cycles in and out. I remember being appointed myself to a board of Gold 2000, and I just remember all the stuff that went on about property and expansions. But what I got out of that was how subtle the things happened that happened during that board process. Because I was a little pea in a big ocean. The other fellows, they was rich. I was poor. But I got to see how the rich work. Their money talks, and the poor gets to walk. And I'm bringing this around about the land conservation. We're spending $2 million a year approximately on land conservation. At that time in Goals 2000, if you remember, there was a big bud that bloomed out on Long Shoals Road, and now it's a garden. It's a Biltmore property. And look what a monster it is. Then the Woodfin project, what happened there? Same thing. You know what? Buncombe County is helping with the funding in that AAA bond rating regarding down there in Woodfin. What I see coming here for the people in the Riceville area, there's an underlying political move that's not being talked about. You know, I always love to know what people are thinking they would like to say, because what the political move is don't tell what it is. In my far thinking of theories, I see this move as something that politicians are going to be moving big on to get some things going in the Riceville area. What we need to be doing is we need to be seeking to find some good land to keep and preserve, like the Amish people. We are slowly being taken up by buildings and space and things that really we could do without. We need the beauty, we need the heritage, we need the native people. We don't want to end up like the Cherokee Indians on the reservation. And that's just about what we're becoming here in Asheville. The native people are being driven out or driven back, and they're dying off, and one day we are going to be the minority. And you're looking at one. I've been here all my life. But let me tell you, don't ever think there ain't some fight in the native people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Hi there. My name is Christina Merrill, Fairview. And I just wanted to speak on behalf of the community in Riceville, since I have a lot of friends in that area that have talked to me about this proposed project. And just like to ask the commissioners to think long about the decisions that you make and take into consideration the people that have lived there and achieved the American dream by purchasing maybe small in comparison, but their piece of America, their land. And the heritage that was mentioned earlier is such a key part of what Buncombe County is. I was at a restaurant recently, and a couple said, "Oh, we're going to move to Denver because it's so much better than Asheville." And I said, "Well, why is it better?" "Oh, they've just gotten rid of all that open land, and they've built condos and strip malls, and it's just so convenient. We love it." And there has to be a balance. I said, "Well, my grandparents owned land in Conejos." And they said, "Oh, that's out there where all the weird people live." There has to be a balance of progress and keeping in mind conveniences, and also balancing what the people of the community that have invested and put their life dream into. So keeping those two things in balance while making these important decisions as the landscape of our county changes. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Any other public comment tonight? All right, if not, we will close public comment. Let me recognize Josh O'Connor. If you would, just kind of give the status of the Coggins Farm property, our jurisdiction at this point, where it's going.
Okay. I think as has already been stated, the project is currently slated to go before the Board of Adjustment on April 9th. It's changed trajectory since we first started talking about the project formally in December. Originally, the project was submitted as both a subdivision project and a request for a rezoning. The developer at some point decided to withdraw, or table rather, that request for a rezoning and see if they could come up with a project plan that could be presented without the need for a rezoning. That's why the project has not come before you to date. Currently, the project proposal that's on the table does not appear that it'll need a change to the zoning. The elements that have been presented appear at this time to meet the uses that are allowed as either a permitted right or permitted use or conditional use within the R2 zoning district where the project is allowed. So that's where it is at this time. The reason that it's not coming before y'all is our zoning ordinance doesn't allow us to defer a project outside of the appointed body that it's supposed to. So since it's been presented to the Board of Adjustment, the project is required to go to the Board of Adjustment, and it stands outside of the purview of the Board of Commissioners at this time, and we don't have any power to redirect that, nor does the Board of Commissioners have the power to request that without changing the structure of the entire zoning ordinance.
So, Josh, just for the record, what is the appeal from the Board of Adjustment if one party is dissatisfied?
If the Board of Adjustment rules and either party is dissatisfied with that decision, it would then be appealed to Superior Court, and it would be handled in the court system. And I'll just note the reason that we handle these requests at the appointed level rather than the elected level is just the sheer volume of requests we would be dealing with. We're looking at a caseload of anywhere from 4 to 12 cases a month with the Board of Adjustment, and about that with the Planning Board. And we'd also lose some of the checks and balances that we have in place currently with the Planning Board reviewing things before it comes to the Board of Commissioners.
And how is the plan proposed in front of the Board of Adjustment different from the original plan that was presented?
The original plan showed some commercial uses that were not allowed within the R2 district. The current plan still shows some uses that are commercial in nature, but they've been made to fit to a definition that fits within the current zoning ordinance. The original plan featured some 380 units, and don't quote me on that, it was in the high 300s. The current plan is showing around 281 total units on a property size that's 169 acres. And I'll note for the board that the allowable density on the site is some 12 units an acre, which the calculation as a max density that we were presented would allow 2,028 units.
All right, anybody have any questions about this?
So, if the zoning were to be changed to commercial, they would have to come before this board.
That's correct, and that request has been tabled at this time.
And what commercial uses are they going to the Board of Adjustment for?
The uses that would be considered commercial in nature, that stick out to me at this time is R2 allows for office uses under a definition of campus office use, which is allowed up to a 5,000 footprint on 2.5 acres. So it does show a few of those office buildings. I believe it shows 4 in total. It also shows a school site. And there are some other uses that are could be considered commercial in nature, but they're not being looked at under the context of our zoning ordinance, as they may be considered for a bona fide farm exemption at a future time, and that's allowed by state statute.
All right. Any other questions, any commissioner? Thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you.
All right, we will not be taking any action unless something comes before us on Coggins Farm.
I do have one. Hey, Josh, I have one last question. Hey, sorry. So just following up on the last point that you made, do you feel, from a staff standpoint, that the kind of quote-unquote non-residential aspects to the development, do you feel as though it's clear that those do not require a rezoning? I mean, is there any, I guess my question is, do you feel there's any regulatory ambiguity around some of those non-residential improvements that the developer is contemplating, such that they may require rezoning, or that they're clearly within the current zoning classifications and therefore could be built without a rezoning request?
A lot of it will have to be looked at.
And I guess kind of part of what I'm trying to understand is, in a situation like this, is it purely the applicant's decision to sort of go there, or if it's your sense that, actually not sure that does fit that definition, and, do you have an opinion about whether a rezoning request may be needed to pursue that development direction?
I have an opinion. I don't have the ability to block an application from going to the Board of Adjustment in that right. If the applicant feels that the use that they're presenting fits within the definition of the zoning ordinance, the Board of Adjustment is actually the decision-making authority on that. I do review the applications and give guidance as to whether, hey, this really needs to go through another regulatory pathway. As it's presented now, it crosses the T's and dots the I's that are in the zoning ordinance. But at the same time, there needs to be that further discussion that we require it to go to the Board of Adjustment. It'll have to meet the definition that's within the zoning ordinance, and that's throughout the life of the project. So at any point, it no longer conforms to that. The project would be considered out of compliance. But that's something that can be brought in front of the Board of Adjustment to require the developer to go into greater detail about that. And the Board of Adjustment does have some ability to set conditions on the use, whether or not it fits within the zoning ordinance, to make sure that it complies with the spirit of the zoning ordinance and the intent of the overall development concept.
But your current opinion is that these proposed non-residential improvements are consistent with the R2 zoning category. I mean, what I hear you saying is that it's the developer's decision sort of which pathway to go down, but if they seek to take it down a pathway that that the staff doesn't agree with, you would share that professional opinion to the Board of Adjustments that, in fact, this is inconsistent with that zoning classification, and that the appropriate thing to do would be to seek a rezoning rather than, approval through the Board of Adjustment process, if that's the more, appropriate solution to getting those kind of improvements consistent with some zoning classification we have.
That's correct. And I'll also say that the way that it's presented on the plans, it matches up with the table of uses in the R2 district as being either conditional or permitted uses. It's just the nuance of that definition that I think comes into question sometimes, and that's what the Board of Adjustment's there for.
But if you saw something coming before the Board of Adjustment, and in your best judgment, you felt that they were only going before the Board of Adjustment because if they came before a Board of Commissioners, there would be different decisions, would you have the ability to articulate that to the Board of Adjustment?
Yeah, and the Board of Adjustment doesn't have license to approve something outside of what the zoning ordinance allows. So even if they were to approve it, and it was shown to be outside of a use that they were allowed to approve in R2, it wouldn't be a valid approval. So, I mean, we could stop that after the fact at a staff level. And we do offer staff opinions throughout the Board of Adjustment hearing to make sure that they understand what our reading of the ordinance is.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes,
please?
sir, Mr. George.
Yes, I think that decision number one that the staff looks at when they receive an application is, does it comply with the zoning? If it does not comply with the zoning, they do not pass it to the Board of Adjustment, correct?
We had that question come up yesterday, and we do have to pass it to the Board of Adjustment. As zoning administrator, I'm not given the authority to block an application outright.
But you do offer an opinion that it does
That's
not
correct.
comply with the zoning.
That's correct, and that would be forwarded most likely in writing to the Board of Adjustment is what we've done in the past, and entered as an exhibit.
And in the Board of Adjustment's consideration, they're not allowed to approve it if it does not comply with the zoning.
They would have to find evidence that somehow superseded the opinion that staff offered. So
If they determined it did not comply with the zoning, they would not approve it, correct?
that's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Are the powers of the Board of Adjustment or those systems, are those state statutes? So, because someone asked specifically how this can happen, and I think it's important for the public to understand that those are determinants that are made by the North Carolina General Assembly that we have no wiggle room around. So
That power comes directly from North Carolina General Statute 153, 45.1 and 160A388 is where we get that guiding authority. And that several months ago we approved some changes that brought our ordinance in alignment with some state law changes that were made during the last General Assembly session.
Right.
So it's relatively up to date as to where it references people. And what we did, instead of making something that our zoning ordinance said and having a difference in the state statute, is a lot of times we reference the state statute directly so people don't have multiple pieces of paper telling them different things.
Yeah.
So I
But
think, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think for the citizens that is a conundrum. Like, we elect you to make the decisions. Why is this other board who we don't know those folks? Why are they making the decision? And so it's just important that you know that the answer is because of state law is determines those.
Yeah, and we don't have the power or authority to say, no, we want to look at this decision from the Board of Adjustment, even if the board voted unanimously to do so, do we?
Not without restructuring the entire zoning ordinance. And then you wouldn't have the ability to supersede the board's decision. You would have to look at every project before the Board of Adjustment as if you were the Board of Adjustment itself.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
This board does pass the county land use plan and the zoning ordinance. And the idea is to set up zones, say what can be done in each zone, and then every citizen is entitled to rely on that. And the Board of the Zoning Adjustment is given the authority to make minor adjustments from the ordinance, which you yourselves, as a board, pass. And then they're also given the responsibility to approve certain things like subdivision applications. They can set conditions on them, like access, buffering, that sort of thing. But I would say all the power emanates from the board, but the board speaks through the land use plan and the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
And I will say on that same line, I believe it was just a few weeks ago, we made a change to the zoning ordinance that required the Board of Adjustment to directly consider the land use plan as part of their decision-making process, and that's something that's relatively unique to Board of Adjustments. Usually that's a power reserved to planning boards. So they're pulling even more direction from you than a board normally would.
And we're counting on you to make sure they do so.
That's correct.
And yeah, I know you will. I think the folks from Coggins Farm area that have spoke to us will want that also. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Connor. If not, we will proceed with following a motion to follow the agenda. I did add, after County Manager's report, a report on the I-26 ranking, I think by consent. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
A motion
Second.
by Commissioner Jones, a second by Vice Chair Frost. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of following the agenda with that addition, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And we will follow the agenda by a 7-0 vote. First order of business is proclamation of Child Abuse Prevention Month. I did see Mr. McGuire here. I think Vice Chair Frost is going to give that proclamation. Bill, if you come on down to the podium here. Ms. Pittman. Sheriff Duncan.
So, this is a sad day in my mind that we need to have proclamations about this. Earlier today we were talking the best thing that could ever happen would be child abuse preventative services go out of business. But it's a reality. So I've asked Sheriff Duncan, Angie Pittman from DSS, and the Director Bill McGuire of Childhood Preventive Services. These are the champions. These are the advocates for the children in our community. Commissioner Jones, there are a tremendous amount of advocates, but what we need is all the public to become involved in this, because they can't do it alone. Sheriff Duncan can't prosecute or arrest anyone that he doesn't know about. The Department of Social Services can't help children that they don't hear about. So this is a community effort, and we all have to be involved, because now is the time to change these horrible numbers. But let me read this proclamation. County of Buncombe Proclamation of Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas the problem of child abuse and neglect affects many of Buncombe County's children and has reached epidemic proportions in North Carolina, with over 125,000 children reported abused or neglect last year. And whereas last year the Buncombe County Department of Social Services received 2,291 reports of child abuse and neglect, including 4,716 children. And whereas preventing child abuse and neglect is the responsibility of all citizens, whereas every child has the right to be safe, healthy, nurturing environment free from abuse, and whereas community action is needed to help prevent child abuse so all children can have the opportunity to reach their potential, and whereas it is vital that we join forces with Child Protection Team of Buncombe County and Child Abuse Prevention Services Incorporated to reach out to parents and children to prevent child abuse and neglect, and to strengthen and assist families and children who have experienced abuse. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe as follows. 1, that the month of April 2014 be proclaimed Child Abuse Prevention Month in Buncombe County. 2, that this board does hereby call upon every citizen to join the child protection organizations, groups, and individuals in observance of this month and appropriate programs and activities. 3, that this proclamation be effective upon its adoption. Adopted this the first day of April 2014. And do you want to say a few words?
Sure.
You speak for us.
Thank you, Commissioner Frost. As the Commissioner said, it is a sad day and a tragic day when you start Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we started this morning, noon, tying of blue ribbons that you see. The story of the blue ribbon is that a grandmother in Virginia about 25 years ago tied a blue ribbon on her car after her grandson was fatally physically abused. She saw his battered black and blue body and did it. And that's the tragic part, the sad part. On the other hand, her action, the action of one woman, has resulted in a nationwide campaign where there are literally, thousands of blue ribbons across the country every April now. The numbers that you heard are still staggering, but there are a lot of good things going on. In our school-based prevention program, hopefully a lot of those kids will never experience abuse. They learn the skills to avoid or get out of an abusive situation. Or a little hand goes up to disclose abuse, and the healing begins. They come to us for counseling. The healing begins. A lot of good things at DSS, Angie Pittman and the folks over there. The under 6 that you all are familiar with, the program, is so many of the children who experience abuse are under 6, and so many of the fatalities. Good things at the Sheriff's Office. Commissioner Frost and Sheriff Duncan have worked together on that, the correlation between child abuse and animal abuse. So there are a lot of good things going on. Real quickly, too, we kicked off a new program, Stewards of Children. This is a child sexual abuse prevention training for adults. And we kicked that off with the 100 Buncombe County school counselors and social workers. We can't reach everybody with it, but we thought we could be a catalyst in starting with groups like that. And then, of course, on an ongoing basis, we see DSS clients for counseling, for parenting ed, but there are a lot of good things going on. We really appreciate your support, too. Means a lot. Sheriff, Angie.
I would just like to thank Bill for his work. He's tireless in his efforts and represents us extremely well and does a good job explaining the importance of this work.
The one thing I would say to the public is, when in doubt, report. Call us at 250-5800 or 250-5900 to report child or adult abuse. So that's the message I would like to give, and I would like to thank the commissioners and the county manager, as well as the sheriff. His detectives are amazing for our social workers to work with, so it is definitely a community effort.
Thank you. Next, I'll recognize Max with BCTV to talk about the City County Communication Association Awards. Woohoo!
I'm Max Tainer. I'm representing your public relations team to tell you about some awards we came back from at the recent NC3C Conference Excellence ceremony. NC3C stands for North Carolina City and County Communicators, and it's a great way for towns, cities, counties, and even some private organizations to get together and kind of talk about current trends in marketing and public relations and video production and that type of stuff. And at the end of every ceremony, they have an Awards of Excellence banquet, and that's where we came back with some of these, which they don't have an official name, but I'm calling them Don't Trips, because after trying to walk out with 4 of them in my arms, someone said, "Don't trip." Well, we came back with 6 of them, 4 first place and 2 second place, and in the trunk of a car, it looked like a medieval death trap. But we won first place for a Buncombe Life episode where Kathy Hughes hosted, and we partnered with Mission Hospital for a video on heart health. We won first and second place in the public service announcement category because we are our own worst enemy. And we won first place by partnering with HHS for a video where some adorable Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts talked about the importance of mosquito safety by tip and toss. And second place with partnering with the Council on Aging of Buncombe County for a video on prescription drug theft. We did a short video for recruitment for the detention facility that won first place in promotions. And as you know, the Forever Free Slave Deeds exhibit, we made a video for them in conjunction with Drew Reisinger with the Register of Deeds Office and Deborah Miles with UNCA that's getting national attention, so we won with that one. And finally, we won second place for Buncombe Life for a publication. And Buncombe Life is a great county resource that you can pick up at any county office or library, even on the elevator on the way out of here. So these awards mean a lot to us because we're judged by not only our peers, but by industry professionals from across the country. And we're not the largest PR, and we don't have the largest staff for the television channel, but I can say across the state we're probably one of the better ones. And that's really all I had to say. We're going to send them off to national competitions and try and get you guys some national recognition. And if you want to see any of the videos, just go to buncombecounty.org/BCTV.
Great.
That's
Great job.
Any questions?
So how many awards was it?
6.
6? Did you let anybody else win any of them?
We tried not to.
Let's give them a hand. That's wonderful. Thank you, Matt. That's great. And that goes on the heels of being the another department, the best website in the United States about, 3 or 4 years ago. Beat out any size city. We were number 1. Beat out Boulder and Boston, I believe, for that one. So congratulations. Thanks for the good work, BCTV. Next, we have a county manager's report. And I think we're going to recognize Sheriff Duncan for that. Is that right, Dr. Green? Sheriff Duncan?
Well, I'm glad to be here today because I'm going to get to do something that I normally don't get to do when I stand in front of a camera, and that's deliver all good news. So I'm very thankful to be able to do that today. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Max. He takes folks like me and helps us communicate a lot better and a lot more articulate. When you see the film clips that come back after he does a communications piece, sometimes you'll be dreading to see him, and man, he just brings these just really communication masterpieces out. So I appreciate what they do very much. Today we're going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to save my piece for last. Dr. Green at the last commissioners meeting talked about the sheriff's office move. And I know there's some questions about that, and I also have some things that I want to bring to you about that we're pretty excited about as far as being a little bit more accessible out in the community, and I think it's going to help our overall mission. But before I get to that, I want to bring a gentleman up who you all know, but you probably don't know him in this role. Mike Summey's been a long-time businessman in this community. What most people don't realize is he's been a sworn deputy sheriff since the days of Harry P. Clay, about 50 years. He gets mad at me when I dial it down to exactly how long he's been sworn. But Mike took over our reserve program several months ago, and he brought a certain skill of organization to that program. And our reserve program is where we have deputies who are not full-time with us, but they want to carry their certifications, and they've been through basic law enforcement training. They get their yearly in-service training, and they come out there and they work for us and donate their time. And what Mike's been able to do is to put a lot of organization to that so we get the most from it. One of the things that they picked up and they did right off the bat is a statutory obligation of the sheriff, which is to go out and verify sex offender addresses. If you're on the sex offender registry, which belongs to the sheriff of each 100 counties, you're obligated to go out and confirm those addresses. A tremendous amount of effort goes into doing that. We have a little over 400 registered sex offenders in Buncombe County, and we have to go out and verify that every year. His squad does that, and they do that at no cost, personnel cost, to the county. So with that being said, I'm going to bring Lieutenant Summey up.
Thank you, Sheriff. I told him that when I came over here in uniform, I'd probably scare all of you to death. But now he's blown my cover. I've been around for a long time, and nobody really knew what I did with the Sheriff's Department. But back last summer, Sheriff asked me if I would consider taking over our reserve operation and try to put it together to where it could do something to really help the county. And I feel like my part of this should have been earlier under the good news part, because I think you're going to find what I've got to tell you is some pretty good news. When the sheriff asked me that, I said, well, what I would like to do, I said, I would like to present you with a proposal to reorganize and let you look at it and let you go over it and tweak it however you want. Let's come to an agreement on what we're going to do, and then get out of the way and let me do it. And he's been gracious in doing that and supported tremendously. That plan, originally we started out with saying we were going to build 5 10-man squads and assign each of those squads. Each would have a sergeant and 9 officers, and we would assign those squads to specific duties to try to help him with some of the statutory obligations that he's got to do, to take that off of the paid people, the full-time people, so they can spend more of their time out here chasing the crooks. Those original 5 squads were one to help civil process, one a headquarters squad that I'll explain a little bit later, a jail court security squad, the sex offender squad, and a community policing squad. We've tweaked that a little bit since, once we got going and saw what was going to happen. I started that in July. By the end of September, he hands me another squad, which was the old G squad, which were the officers that were fully certified that could come in and help patrol and stuff like that. They were under a kind of a separate umbrella. So I got that in as a 6th squad, and we renamed it the Patrol Support Squad. You don't need to take a lot of notes because I'm going to give you some stuff here in just a minute. The goal that I had when I started, I told the sheriff, I said it'll take at least 6 months for us to really get attitudes changed, get people in the right place, and get this thing off the ground and running. The goal was to try, my goal was to try to build those squads with kind of an equal mix of real trained professional people like some of our retired officers, and then bring in the younger people so they've got somebody to work with. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to just run through each of those squads, tell you something that each one of them has done up to this point. That Patrol Support Squad, of course, what they do, they're fully trained, fully field-trained officers. And what they do is when one of them comes out to work to volunteer their time, they add to the impact that the patrol that's on duty has, or they're there to fill in if somebody's out sick or on vacation so that the squad doesn't go down. The Civil Process Squad, that squad, we currently have 1 vacancy left on that, and March was their first month where they had 9 of their 10 officers working, and they put in 267 hours of time out assisting with serving civil and criminal papers and subpoenas. Plus, one of their officers represented the county reserves at the funeral for the slain officer down, the Forest Service officer. Our headquarters squad is kind of a mixed mash. I said I'd tell you a little more about that. That's made up of people that assist with the Criminal Investigations Division, school resource, equipment management, training. So we got, where we didn't know what else to do with people, that's where we put them. And that's a very strong squad. The Jail Court Security Squad, we decided that wasn't really going to work, so we renamed that, reassigned it, and called it a checking station squad, and assigned them to assist with the cops teams, you know, that go out in the community, do the community policing stuff. They are getting trained to where each of those officers will be able to go out on their own and head up one of the checking stations in the communities to carry on the works of the cops team after they've left. That team only had 3 officers in January. They got more now, but even with those minimal people, they've run 18 checking stations already this year. And they've written several hundred citations for all varying degrees of law infractions there. Our sex offender squad that the sheriff mentioned to you, dynamite bunch of people. If I could just get him to quit hiring everybody off that squad as fast as we get them trained. But that group, even though they're down right now about 3 officers, they've already verified addresses on 135 of the offenders out of the 400 in the first quarter. And finally, the community policing squad. Again, that squad works in connection with the checking station squad to back up and support the cops teams and their efforts and the community policing effort. I want to tell you about just one little incident that team did with their people. We had a business out on Hendersonville Road that they felt like was running a drug operation out of there, and we took 2 of the officers off that squad, and they set up and run an undercover surveillance, and then we put 2 of our uniformed people on the other side. And what they reported back to me was that their efforts resulted in them seizing and towing 6 of the company's vehicles, issuing charges for fictitious tags, no insurance, operator's license, possession of illegal drugs, and all that was done without taking one person off patrol. So with that said, I want to give each of you a little packet. What that packet has in it is three things. The sheet that's on top is the Active Reserves time and attendance report that I prepare each month, and that goes to the sheriff, all the command staff and everything, so they know what we're doing. And if you'll look at the total hours for the year, that squad has already given the county 3,317 volunteer hours so far this year, first quarter. Those yellow boxes there's a note down at the bottom tells you what that is. If a person gives us a little bit above what we require them, they can earn a performance point. And there'll be some things that we're going to be doing with that later on down the year. The next document is a roster of our reserve squads and who's on them and all at the present time. And then the final piece is the mission overview and operating procedure, which you're getting to see even before my people do, because it's just been approved. That's something we've been working on, taking all the stuff that we've done and putting it on paper so that the people can use it now going forward and work with it. So that's what I've got for you. The sheriff told me I couldn't talk 30 minutes, so I got to sit down. But if any of you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Well, this is awesome, really extraordinary. The 400 sex offenders for a community our size, is that high, is that low, or do we know?
Commissioner Frost, I really don't have a breakdown on it. I know it's stayed consistent over the past 8 years. When we came into, when our administration came in, it was somewhere around that number, and it's fluxed right around that 400 number for the past 8 years.
And then, are most of them pretty stable as far as where they live, or is there a lot of moving around?
I would say probably 70% is fairly stable with the thing. A lot of the people that are on that list are on there over, I hate to say it, but they're on there over divorce situations where they've been accused of molesting a child or something. They've taken a plea instead of dragging a kid into court. But there are a few that are just real thugs, and we've got some that their address is in their car in a parking lot or a lawn fix in the woods in a tent. So
right.
You got a mix of everything. That particular mission was the one that I started with, 4 years ago, of taking a group of the reserves, and I said, let me take over that, and we'll see if we can't take that off of you. And that kind of, you do something, you do a decent job, they give you more work. I found that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's your reward for sure. Actually, can I ask a quick question too? So, in terms of the reserve folks, are they? I'm assuming that most of them are retired folks, but maybe there's not. Maybe there's a couple of different tracks.
Let me answer that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're not supposed to tell the sheriff to them, but what I said to our reserves, there's basically two things. I said there's only two reasons you need to be on the reserve. Either you want to gain experience to further a career in law enforcement, which that's where our younger people come in, or you want to give back to your community and you want to do it some way other than just writing a check to a charity. That's been my reason for serving. And I said, if you're here for any other reason than that, you're here for the wrong reasons. And those people have done a magnificent job. We've got a good mix of young people that are coming in and learning, and we've got a good mix of the older people that are retired and got a lot of experience.
So what are the qualifications to become reserved? I mean, how do you get
Well, you have to be basic law enforcement trained. In other words, every reserve officer is trained to the level of a full-time officer in a law enforcement agency. They have to meet all the standards by the commission that's over training and standards. So they also have to keep up with their yearly in-service training. As Mike stated earlier, that's one of the reasons we tend to hire from our reserve unit, because they are trained, ready to go to work, in many cases equipped at least with uniforms and the bare necessities that they need to go to work for us as a full-time deputy sheriff. I think I kind of hear where you're coming from. We put them through a very high degree of training just to be there. And then we try to train them specifically to the job that they're doing for us in reserves. One of the challenges we face in law enforcement now is we have become so task specific that has technology and certain things that accompany it that it's really hard. Back in my day when I started, a deputy sheriff could serve as a deputy sheriff in about any role. And we've become very specific and task specific now, which really presents some training challenges for us as well as reserves.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's just a crackerjack idea. It seems like it's just hitting on so many different important areas in terms of, I mean, I'm sorry he's taking your guys and gals away, but it's also smart. I mean, in terms of kind of a recruitment tool and.
That's what we're there for.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it could be kind of one of the goals too. So I think it's really a good. Yeah.
A big chunk of reserves also, Commissioner, are folks who work full-time, own a business, much like Mike. They love giving back to their community and being a law enforcement officer in their community, but their full-time job is too profitable to take a full-time job with the sheriff's office. So we're very fortunate that we get a lot of those folks that come out and serve their community in the law enforcement capacity.
These numbers in yellow are the ones they worked in a month, and I'm looking at this. One person worked 144 hours in a month.
We just hired him. Or was that? That's probably right.
Which one was that?
That's Debbie LaCroix.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we've got people. If you'll look down below that one. Let me see if I can find my sheet here.
The woman.
It looks like you came in third that month.
She has come in and just really gone game. But if you'll look on down at the last squad under Sergeant Benson, you got Ronnie Davis down there who put in 202 hours this month. As a matter of fact, I had to redo this report about lunchtime today to bring to you because he called me and he said, "Oh, by the way," he said, "we went out last night and we did another checking station and worked 16 hours, he and some of the other reserves."
So, Mike, does that become, I mean, I'm hearing that almost becomes a little bit of competition between the group and working and trying to give back, and which is healthy.
When we have our monthly meetings, I have each one of the sergeants stand up and give a report on what their squad has done. And so that's where some of that competition comes in. They don't like to be, got some competitive people.
You don't want to be 10 hours in a group that's given 100. So it's Mike's done an extraordinary job of lighting a fire in that reserve division. And I also have to take my hat off to Lieutenant Kevin Calhoun. He is our full-time person that wears several hats for us at the Sheriff's Office. But one of the things that he does is he manages the reserve program, and he's Mike's liaison as our full-time representative to reserves.
Well, I want to salute the vision of this, the cooperation of it. I mean, you know, they say if you want something done, you find the busiest person, you know, and you give it to them. And if people know Mike Summey, he's a pretty busy guy. But I'm sure he's enjoying it, and the cooperation between the two of you and the leadership, and I like the competition. I like the ribbing back and forth and the measuring and things like that, and I can only see it doing great things. I mean, you know, we wear this about Child Abuse Month, and you know, you're engaging people that can do something about this by having these different groups. I mean, and you're doing that, and just a tremendous service. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. My whole idea when we started this was that if you've got the right people and they're here for the right reasons, you just need to tell them what to do and then get out of the way.
That's about
right. One of the big things, and I'll close on the reserves portion with this, you know, I think all the commissioners are familiar with the success we've had with the COPS teams, where we take those 5 people and turn them loose in the community for 30 days, and we've had some really good results that have been reported on in the media. Well, having the reserves gives us the ability to have more capacity when we go out there and work in that particular community. A lot of those check-in stations are driven by the community complaints and the things that we get when we're doing the problem solving in the community meetings, and it just gives us extra resources without having to hire full-time people. So yeah, we're pretty excited about it, as you can tell, and I think we're really just tapping in. I think we've got some other things that we can accomplish with our reserves. Thank you, Mike. Let's talk a little bit about our move. I think Dr. Green covered it pretty well a couple of weeks ago. We found ourselves to be in a building that we were beginning to outgrow, and the building had some heating and cooling problems, very expensive to heat and cool. We kept hearing that common theme come back, and I can tell you today, I was in there today giving an interview, and it was about 82 degrees in one of the rooms, and you just can't regulate the heating and air in that building. Greg Israel came out and took a look at it, and they started to propose to tear out that ductwork and make the upgrades to the building. And by the time they looked at that, the percentage it would take to fix that building, we're also going to have to bring it to code and put an elevator in it. And I think, Dr. Green, it was $1.8 million was the price tag. Plus, we were going to have to move out for 9 months and then move back in, which to me is almost the impossible task. So Dr. Green came forward and said, hey, would you consider moving into some existing county property? And as we looked around, this really did turn out to be a plan that offered a lot of advantages. The first thing that we will be moving into is a county building that's attached to the Land of Sky building at Leicester Crossing. And sorry, it's a Leicester. Let me get that on tape so I don't catch too much grief when I go home. Leicester Crossing. And it was already a county-owned piece of property, and it suited itself extremely well for us to move patrol, field investigations, our sheriff's community enforcement team, our reserves will be based out of there, and also our SERVE program, which is our Sheriff's Executive Resource Volunteers. And I'm going to bring Dr. Catterjohn in with me at some later date, and we'll talk a little bit about SERVE and what they do for the county. This is going to be good for a couple reasons. It's going to put more of our cars on a regular basis located out in the community, out in the county, located kind of out from downtown. I think that people are going to see an increased number of patrol cars in that Leicester, Patton Avenue, and all those arteries coming in to that particular piece of property. It's easy to access. It's easy for our citizens to access. There's plenty of parking there. So much so that I plan on taking appointments out there 2 days a week, because as we move from 202 Haywood Street, probably in sometime around a year, I think is sometime around November, December is the plan out for the 4th floor. We will move our administrative staff. We will move our major case criminal investigations, special investigations, civil process. We'll see who I'm leaving out. Our training division, our internal affairs division, everybody that was kind of left that's not going to Leicester Crossing will be going to the 4th floor. And how that works well, one of my big concerns to Dr. Green was the fact that half our sheriff's office lived in one building and the other half lived in the detention center and the courts. We've got 210 employees on that campus in detention and in the courts. So this is going to bring the majority of our folks who are in the office most of the course of the day or in a location doing their work. It's going to bring them together on one campus, and I think that gives us all kinds of benefits. Also, civil process is going to be located right there with the courts. It's going to flow much easier that way. Plus, our major case and our special investigative units are going to be right there with the DA. Mm-hmm. So that's all a much better workable plan. And from what the county manager tells me, it's going to save the county money. So it's really a win-win at the end of the day. So we're looking forward to it. Any questions?
So tell me when all that's going to happen.
The Leicester Crossing move's taking place right now.
Right now.
So we will be putting out some PSA announcements and putting out some county TV announcements and pushing that information out. We'll still be at 202 Haywood Street, so if somebody doesn't get the information and they show up at what will be the old sheriff's office, we'll still be there for the next 8 or 9 months.
Okay.
So we'll be
so
okay.
That first phase is happening now, and then
Yes, ma'am.
in November is when y'all are going to move lock, stock, and barrel to the 4th floor.
Dr. Green, is that still the estimated build-out time?
Yes. Gotcha. Okay, good deal.
And how much? And how much money will it save?
Actually, we're
able to do the renovations for what we budgeted and then sell the building, so we're hoping to realize $2 to $3 million on it.
Nice. Every move should be as lucrative.
And how many of the folks will you now have together when in November when what percentage of your?
Right now, we're half and half. We're about evenly split between 202 Haywood Street and outside of what is at Communications and at our Buncombe County Anti-Crime Task Force, which are smaller numbers of folks. We're about evenly split right now. This will move us about 80-20.
Nice.
So, Sheriff, how are you letting the people in Leicester know about the move out there? I'm sure that they would be very excited about it, and you might let everybody know where Leicester Crossing is, but that's very needed out there. How many people will also be out there?
How many folks total?
Yeah.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of about 80, 85, and I hasten to say 80, 85 because we've got 64 individuals in patrol. Those folks really don't work out of an office. They go to work when they sit down in that cruiser and they check in service. They only come in one time during a 2 or a 3 day shift to meet and brief as a group. So your field investigators, your sheriff's community enforcement team, there will be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30, 35 people that will have offices in that building.
Very good.
There might be a few more speeding tickets down Patton
Well,
Avenue.
now that's one way, Commissioner Belcher, they'll know we're there. They will see the cars. We are hoping to do, and I don't have the date with me today, I'm working with our Public Information Officer, Natalie Bailey, to get an open house. We'd really like to have an open house for the community and invite folks to come in and see the satellite portion of the Sheriff's Office.
Be great. Let us know when that happens.
Absolutely.
Sheriff Duncan.
Yes, sir.
Is there any anticipation you may need a traffic light there? I know it's very difficult at times to come out of there and turn left toward Asheville. And with that much traffic, do you see that as maybe a need for a safety?
I have worked with DOT about getting traffic lights, and they do an awesome job, but that's a tough thing to get done, especially in a high traffic area. We really have the ability to go to the bottom of the parking lot and come out at that traffic light at the lower end, at Land to Sky, and I think that's probably going to work for us.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a light right there.
There is. Mm-hmm. We're just not the type of personality to use it.
Commissioners, thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
the
Sheriff.
opportunity and the time.
Great.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Wonderful job. Under old business, we just received some word from Department of Transportation, and I'd like to again recognize our representatives on the ad hoc board to work with that, Commissioner Newman, Belcher, and Jones. What does this mean to us?
Well, I had mentioned something to the chairman about that we might want to do a little, I guess maybe a commercial for the prioritization. We ended up the bridge project ended up at ranked 37. There was another project 25, but several projects in our area ranked very well. And I want people to be misled to think that because you're 37th that's a bad ranking. It's not necessarily a bad ranking. It was a good. We're on the list. It was a great. I mean, we had 7-0 vote here, 6-1 at the city, and then unanimous at the MPO, and everybody coming together. And I just wanted to give a little shout out to that, and to keep people encouraged. And would love to hear any comments from anyone else that was on that committee as well. So.
Chairman Gann, just a couple of other thoughts on this. So as we talk about this project, the I-26 connector project, there are several different sections to it. As Commissioner Belcher was saying, there's the construction of a new bridge across the French Broad River. There's improvements to the existing I-240 through West Asheville, and then there's where the existing I-240 highway comes into I-40 on the west side of town. And so in each of those projects was sort of ranked separately through this statewide prioritization process. And the thing that I was most encouraged about is that as the folks who've been working on this over the last 9 to 12 months, I think there was a real strong consensus in the community that the most important piece of this, sort of the most urgent piece of this, is getting the new bridge built across the French Broad River, which will resolve a lot of the concerns around how currently, to go through Asheville, all of the traffic is mingled together on the Smoky Park Bridge. There's more than 100,000 cars a day going across that bridge, and it's a combination of local and interstate traffic. And it's people feel, it's a real safety concern as well as just a congestion concern. So, so one of the really good pieces of news was that the new bridge component scored very competitively in the statewide process, and so there's a very good reason to feel hopeful about that the funding and construction of the new bridge will take place. All these big projects take years to plan, but that this project will be scheduled for funding in the not too distant future. And also the intersection between I-26 and I-40 also scored well, so there may be some improvements there. Kind of interestingly, the section going through West Asheville actually did not score as well as actually it had in some previous formulas. So those improvements may be further out, which some people in West Asheville might think is a good thing. I don't know, but anyway. But the good news is that the bridge that everybody sees is so important to addressing the congestion and safety problems on the Smoky Park Bridge scored very well, and so the prospects for moving that ahead are very promising.
Great.
And, I think they've really summarized it all, and I think the only thing I would add is that in addition, this working group that's worked together for about a year, two things that we will keep pressing on is, one, the least impact as feasible will be our mantra. We want to do what we need to do according to the rules and the regs and the engineers' best thinking, but we want to continue to beat the drum about the least amount of impact to our neighborhood and to our city, and also the connectivity part. That's really a big piece that we will continue to advocate for. The city is investing money in that, and we are serious about that as a community. The multimodal piece is going to be a piece of this going forward, and we will continue to be advocates for both those facets of this project going forward.
Well, I want to thank you on behalf of all the board members for your time and effort. It seems like we're closer than we've ever been, and hopefully we can keep moving it that way. Okay, under new business, we have the micro loan proposal. Let me recognize maybe Vice Chair Frost to start this off.
Well, we were actually going to have Eileen McMinn present this, but while Eileen is moving up to the podium, this is something Commissioner Newman and I have been working on for quite a long time, probably a long time, and we are very happy to see it perhaps being realized. Both of us individually have benefited from microloans, mine from a private citizen and Brownie's from Mountain BizWorks, and we are here to tell about it and have thriving businesses as a result of it. So the premise was we give a lot of incentive money to big companies, and this is strictly to help small business ownership in Buncombe County, and this is a pilot. We have been thoughtful about it, prudent about it, and are very anxious to get it going, and appreciate Eileen being here.
Eileen?
Yes, I'd like to thank you for having me here. I also have with me Jamie Beasley and Brian Griffin. They're staff members and can field any questions that I might have trouble with. But thank you for considering our proposal. Mountain BizWorks is a nonprofit organization, and it is about economic development. What we do is, our mission is to bring income and jobs to Western North Carolina, in this case specifically Buncombe County, by finding people who have the drive and vision to become entrepreneurs and helping them make that dream and vision a reality economically. The way we do this is by making loans of from $1,000 to $50,000 to low and middle income entrepreneurs. We loan money to people that nobody else will loan money to. We do have our own criteria, which we look at. All loan administration and relationships are managed locally. That's a unique feature of our program. Another one that we're very proud of is that we work hard to ensure our clients are successful by offering highly individualized peer-to-peer business coaching by people who are actually successful entrepreneurs in the county, so in the same community. So not only do they receive business coaching, but they become part of a successful network of entrepreneurs. This combination of providing loans along with the intensive coaching has been very successful in overcoming the obstacles that face many new entrepreneurs and many people that are new to the business world. We have had a very successful 3 months. Within the last 3 months, we have closed 22 loans for a total of $558,000. We've provided 200 hours of business coaching, and we have had 100 clients in 7 business planning classes. I am also very happy to be able to announce that we have received $1 million in loan money from the Small Business Administration, which is available to lend out to entrepreneurs in this area. However, everything comes with a catch, and in order to access this $1 million, we need to be able to generate a 15% loan reserve. What we're requesting from you is a little bit different from the way we've been operating in the past, because we are requesting $50,000 from Buncombe County to help fund that loan loss reserve. However, what that $50,000 will do is enable us to access over $300,000 of loan money for low-income entrepreneurs, low to medium-income entrepreneurs in Buncombe County. Part of the SBA regulation is that this money needs to be 60% targeted towards low to moderate income individuals. We also, as part of loaning out this money to entrepreneurs, receive additional money from the SBA for coaching services. This is on top of the money that we have received to lend out, and only in the event that it actually is lent out. And this will enable us to provide one-on-one coaching services to the individuals who do receive this money in Buncombe County. So what we're doing is we are using the money we have requested to leverage additional services and to leverage services that go far beyond the actual financial commitment that we are requesting from the company, from the county rather. Let's see. We also have the ability, we've requested $50,000. The SBA does set loan rates which range from 8.5% to 11.5%. We are also looking at taking a small portion of this money from the county in order to have an interest rate reduction fund, and those details will need to be worked out. But what we will be able to do is use them not to lower the interest rate per se, but to be able to pay some of the interest on those so that we can achieve an effective lower interest rate for the entrepreneurs that take advantage of this program. So that is the essential part of our proposal, and we're happy to answer questions. And I have my experts here who can also answer questions.
So Eileen, in terms of kind of, I mean, I know part of it, it depends on what the request is, and I mean, somebody might want 5,000, somebody might want 25,000. So I know the loan pool varies, but
Right.
if you had to, give an average, this investment will leverage X number of business loans. Fill in the blank. Or
would like to. I'll let Brian answer that.
That is absolutely correct, and thank you, commissioners, for having us this afternoon. Again, I'm Brian Griffin, and essentially, when we first put a proposal together, it was for $50,000 to put into our loan pool. The idea was, in having some side conversations and initial proposal, the impact of taking $50,000, putting it in a reserve, and accessing $300,000 can ultimately allow us to probably do about 25 to 30 loans, as opposed to just doing 5 at, say, $50,000.
Right.
You know, our average loan size right now is about $19,000. Average interest rate's about 9.5%. So there is a good variance of large and small loans, which it's a nice combination because you want a variance in your loan pool. It's one of these things, you don't want to have all your apples in one basket, so to speak. So, to think that our strategic plan was that we were going to do larger loans, we haven't forgot about the mom and pop, the single entrepreneur who needs that $2,000 loan either. So.
And just a clarification for the public too. So the idea is that these are loans that will be repaid. They are loans. They are not
Absolutely.
grants. So they will be funding.
As right, and as money, yes, these will be.
It's
these,
a revolving
these will,
loan fund. That's correct.
It is. So, I mean, if we loan out $10,000, as those payments come in, they will be available for another loan.
Right.
So it's not static, and if the $300,000 covers 30 loans or whatever, I'm just pulling that number out of a hat. As time goes on, that number will increase because as money comes back in from loan payments,
Right.
it will be relent.
Great. And in general, what's the average length of a loan?
5 years, 3 to 5 years. It depends on the size of the loan. The smaller loans have smaller repayment periods, but they're basically 3 to 5 years.
So this is so smart, y'all, down there that thought that up, because it's an investment now that will pay off in really perpetuity, right? And it will grow, and so we will not only be helping 25 to 30 businesses today, but going forward too. So I think it's a brilliant idea. I appreciate y'all bringing forward.
Well, if I can add to that too, we are generally they're not, I would say, considered the last resort lender, but we're the first place people can start. And with that, as we build over time, we become that second and third loan until they're able to elevate themselves to a bank financing. So we put something in place a couple of years ago called the stair-step loan. You do small increments up until you get to a certain cash flow point. And during this process, these individuals are monitored by a business coach. I mean, we don't have to continually approve somebody, but if they hit certain points, we can see that they're reaching certain, they're elevating their business where we can continue to lend to this business as they're repaying back.
Nice.
So it's more than just a year, 2 years. This is a lasting investment that can continue on. So.
And just to reiterate, this is for Buncombe County only, correct?
That's absolutely correct, yes.
Right. Yeah, the funds that we leverage through this will be only for Buncombe County.
Right.
What is your failure rate?
It's less than 2% on a portfolio of $3.2 million. And believe me, I've been an asset manager at a bank. I wish we could say those kind of numbers when I was at the bank. It's really impressive.
So, what type of process does your clients go through to apply for this? I mean, is this a mixture of startup and existing businesses, or?
Certainly. The startup business would face more scrutiny because they have to have a full business plan, cash flow projections. we look at each business as they have to put some investment into it. We don't cap it at a 20%. We just like to see whether it's sweat equity or some type of investment into it, because for us, there has to be some type of skin in the game for us to say that they're going to take this serious. So there's that accountability feature. So that's the mechanics for a startup business. With an existing business, you have financials that you can gather from the balance sheet, the income statement. So there's a little bit more analysis when you're looking at the established business compared to the startup business. A little bit more hand-holding generally with the startup business, though.
What's the difference? There's a difference between what we look at and what a bank would look at.
I wouldn't necessarily say we look at a tremendous amount. I mean, we're not trying to create the wheel or reinvent the wheel with underwriting. It's just that we will look at a startup, and a lot of times they won't. I mean, downtown is really what I would say an example of where banks don't want to lend and where we have a plethora of loans at, from the restaurants to the breweries. Most of those businesses are financed by Mountain BizWorks. Banks would not touch that until they have a 2-year track record.
I mean, that's what we hear over and over again is what do small businesses need? They need an infusion of capital. This is what they say they need. Yeah. And so I think I'm just getting more excited as I think about it. And I also want to add at this point that while this is presented on the agenda as a proposal from y'all, in fact, we need to thank you because this is something that we came to you to ask. We ask you to bring this forward. So I just want to make sure that dynamic is clear, that this is not a gimme to Mountain BizWorks, but this is a response to a request on the part of commissioners who have seen and heard in the community the need for capital in small businesses. So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
One very quick comment. Jamie Beasley, Mountain BizWorks. On to your question about how are these underwritten. A key piece here is that we look at deals very, very seriously, and there are a number of deals that are not approved. In fact, most deals, just like any bank, would not be approved unless you can make the case that you can be one of the 1 out of 10 who could be successful in business. So we are very, very realistic about who we approve, but we are able to approve folks that are outside of that normal boundary by having this extensive network of coaching that will be available complimentary through the term of the loan. So we have the same underwriting. We take underwriting as seriously as a bank, but have extra tools and flexibility that allow us to say yes to those near misses from a bank.
Do we charge for the coaching?
Sir?
Do you charge for the coaching?
On the pre-loan side, we have subsidies that help make that affordable for certain groups of people, but we also have a pay-by-the-hour version of the coaching. We have a CDBG program where certain Asheville City residents can access coaching at a subsidized rate. We also have a full-price coaching available as well.
Well, I thought that we had AB Tech to be able, at the Inca campus, that basically brought this forward and, helped the people with their entrepreneurs wanting to go into business. Why are we funding money to an outside source to go against our local community college?
I can answer that. We're in partnership with AB Tech, and the way we look at this is most of our pre-loan coaching is when AB Tech refers someone back our way who's ready to get through that loan pipeline. We're able to match that borrower with someone who successfully made it through that pipeline as their coaching. So we would acknowledge that we don't attempt to duplicate at this point the folks that are further away from the loan table or don't need that type of coaching. So we have people come to us that think they need a loan and they really are a very, very long way away. We tell them to call AB Tech, go through some of their programs, and come back to us when they're ready to go on a path to the table.
Didn't BizWorks just start out as basically trying to help and loan money and wasn't part of coaching? Didn't this hurt you financially by going into the coaching business?
Should I keep?
I can. Well,
I can't. Go ahead.
I would say no, but I would say that was also a little bit more complicated. We did have to we had to take a hard look at our finances this fall. Okay, we did have a liquidity crunch. Our finances are complicated, and quite frankly, and part of it was this loan reserve issue that I'm talking about, because as we get more loans, we need to have more money that we're not doing anything with, and that just got a little bit out of sync. We are looking very closely at all of our programs right now and have been looking very closely at all of our programs to make sure that they are cost effective and sustainable. And that is one reason why we are partnering with AB Tech on some of the educational issues, and we're partnering with looking at partnering with organizations in Buncombe County. I would not say the coaching, some of the coaching was a problem because we were offering coaching in far away parts of western North Carolina without taking into consideration the costs of sending people out to the far reaches of western North Carolina and so forth. So we did reevaluate that program from that perspective. What we're talking about doing here, though, is closely tied to the SBA money, and we do get specific SBA money for SBA loans. We do get specific money for coaching SBA clients through the SBA loan. So that's what we're looking at here, and the coaching services in this program will be cost effective and they will not be hurting us. So we are reevaluating and redesigning all of our programs to make sure that they are cost effective and done in a way that will allow us to be a sustainable organization. So the program that we're talking about here is part of that, and it's definitely sustainable. Now, some of our others, you know, we're revising and reworking, and we're no longer, you know, when somebody calls us in Swain County for a coach, you know, telling them to be out there in 2 hours. You know.
I've got to explain to the taxpayer why I'm going to give Mountain BizWorks $50,000, which there's a lot of business, including myself. When I went in business, we just decided to go in business, and we didn't have an opportunity. You know, just you start with what you have and you work your way up. As I look at what I've seen here, is you might have no credit, you might have never had any credit, and you're given something. But how am I going to ask the taxpayer to give you $50,000 for you to be able to get $300,000? Ms. Green, I need to ask you a question. Are we going to have to go into the fund balance to give $50,000 to BizWorks? And that's, you know, because we've got a budget, and that's what I'm looking at.
Commissioner Farrar, I always answer the question this way. We do have a budget, and I'll do all I can to find it elsewhere, but that's always the fallback, is to use the fund balance that's appropriated.
So
what? I will do everything I can to find it elsewhere, but the position is always we would have to use the fund balance that's appropriated already if we can't find a savings elsewhere.
So we may have to go borrow money to put the fund balance back in and pay interest on it to be able to give money to someone.
She's being, I'm going to jump in there for you. What is your track record on not having ever used the fund balance?
I've done 21 budgets, and one time I had to use it.
Okay. So she's being modest right now, and might happen. This might be the first year in 21 years that she has to go into fund balance, but she got a pretty good track record for not having to go to fund balance. So, but she's just being modest over there, so I'm going to jump in and say that I think it's a pretty good bet that this $50,000 will not. I'm just going to be out on a limb there, but
maybe we can walk down to the tax office and let them ask the people if they want to give them $1 a piece and see what happens. That's who I look forward, is to the people. I mean, we've all went in business.
I think in a broader view, this commission is concerned with jobs and business and moving people forward. And I think it is and will be viewed as a blessing to small business ownerships, people who have a dream of their own business. This is a blessing. I think we can pick holes in anything we want, but for people who have a small business and want to have that realized, this is it. I am thrilled that, Brownie and I came to you. We're grateful that you're here. And for anybody to say that this is wrong, let them get in front of a small business owner who needs a leg up. This community is full of people that need a little bit of a leg up. And if we can do it and reap the reward and have that fund balance continue to grow, it's awesome.
I think we do have many examples of businesses that have grown with our help and have, as a result, produced jobs and improved the local economy. Can you talk Jimmy?
Briefly, in 25 years, I have 3 statistics. So we've been around for 25 years. We've done $9 million in loans. We maintain a 1% default rate, so that means that folks are paying back. They're not giving a handout. That's let's see, 715 local businesses in this area, and that adds up to 3,000 to 4,000 jobs, depending on how you count it and when you count them. So we are very, very proud of the track record. We are lending this money to people that will pay it back by our track record. You can see that. These are not gifts. These are not handouts. And about 50% of our clients are existing businesses who are expanding, not new ideas who are just trying to try something. So I want to point out those statistics. Thank you.
Chairman Gann, I'd like to make a couple of comments. Thank you as well for being with us this evening. And as Commissioner Frost said, we did reach out to Mountain BizWorks as well as a number of other, there's a number of groups in our community who are doing excellent work to support our small business community, and we reached out to a number of them to talk about what they're doing, what work's being done in the community, and what role the county might be able to play to support this really important part of our business community. And after talking to a number of groups and the county manager and other staff were very gracious, giving some of their feedback and ideas around what might be a promising approach. We concluded that implementing this kind of pilot program with Mountain BizWorks would be a good approach for us to begin. And so, and part of the conclusion there was that that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There is excellent work already happening, and it's been happening for a long time to support and grow small businesses, the small business community through Mountain BizWorks, as well as other organizations. I mean, in truth, the step that we're taking tonight is a first step. It's Buncombe County playing, frankly, a very modest role in this overall scope of work in the community. But as Commissioner Frost mentioned in her opening remarks, I think it's an important step. A lot of people ask us, and I'm sure this will resonate with others. When we work hard to bring jobs to Buncombe County. We go to bat when we have great economic development projects that present themselves as opportunities here, when we have companies like General Electric and Linamar and New Belgium and a lot of other important but lower profile companies. We work hard to support the creation of living wage jobs here. And I support that, and I defend that. And some of the policies that there's not always consensus on around doing those kind of economic development agreements. But people want to know, it's great that we have those kinds of projects happening here, but I don't work there. For most people in our community, they're probably employed by a small business in Asheville or in Buncombe County, and we are a community that is very entrepreneurial in nature. A lot of people here know that you sort of have to, if you want to live in Buncombe County, you got to kind of take your own ideas and turn those ideas into a creative business endeavor, and people are great at doing that here. And I'm excited that Buncombe County will put some initiative forward that we can be supportive of that. And I think this is a very modest but an important step. I think that we should carefully evaluate this over the coming year to see how successful it can be. But when we think about the amount of funding we put behind other economic development projects where we might just be supporting a single business, the idea that we could impact more than 20 businesses with an investment of this size is really exciting, and I think very, very high impact. So, Chairman Gant, can I make a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we support the proposal to partner with Mountain BizWorks on a pilot project around micro lending for small businesses locally owned in Buncombe County, as outlined in the proposal.
Okay, it's been a motion by Commissioner Newman, a second by Vice Chair Frost. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to mention something. I think from what I've heard, there's been a thought in my mind on how could we. Is there some way annually that we could help maybe small business? Is there a way to do that? And for me, this could possibly be that way, annually we receive, a list of community development grants. I think, we just receive those. We go over those things. And I think from a sustainable position, there's a possibility of doing something like this annually, and having somebody administrate it, but doing it in the budget process. And I personally would prefer it that way, is that it would be, which I guess is in the next couple of months we review that list. In other words, this would go through that. Then we would measure it based on the performance contract, based on certain to then it possibly be something that might be sustainable and work really well, and then maybe even have the possibility of coming back, to leverage more money. If we would do it through that process, I think I could get behind it. I don't think the way it is right now that I will, but if we could go in that direction to where we could measure that, where it would be part of the performance contracts, it might even be an opportunity for future funds available that could be leveraged, because if we do something like this, we're going to have somebody administrate it. But we're not going to do that. I mean, we'd have to have somebody administrate it, and the possibility of doing that in a repetitive way if we could include it in our upcoming budget.
I like the idea of this has such merit that we're already looking for it to be, assuming that it has good outcomes, that we're thinking about ways that we're going to think about this in the long run. I just wanted to flag two things for the record at this point. One is, I really do believe, that small business is the backbone of this community, and we don't deal with our other economic incentive grants like that. We pretty much click our heels and jump in the closed session, appropriately so, when we get a request. I mean, we are on it because we want jobs in this community. So I feel like it's only fair to treat our small businesses in the same way. So I really kind of see this as a different. I don't see this as a grant. I don't see this in the same pot of money. I like the idea of the budget next year, and I want to think about that too, assuming that we get good outcomes. But I don't think that it is out of. I don't think it's out of process at all. In fact, I think it's exactly how we do with the commissioner initiated. Responses to community needs and our economic incentives. This is how we roll. This is how we've been doing it, at least since I've been on the board. So,
all right. Any other comments? I guess the only thing, I think it's all been said. I think you're using an existing program. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're leveraging 6-to-1 right off the bat of a revolving loan that will even go even further if you look at it that way. You have a 1%, you got a track record, you keep good records, we can check to get a performance account from you next year at this time. And it's about jobs. This is about jobs, and small business is jobs. Most of our jobs in this county are small business. Anything we do to help small business, I'm all for. Anything else? Call the question. All those in favor of the motion by Commissioner Newman, second by Vice Chair Frost, to approve the $50,000 grant money or money to the project as described, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no.
No.
The motion carries 4-3. Belcher, King, and Fryer against. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have board appointments. We have first board appointment will be the Board of Adjustment. We have 3 vacancies, and I would ask the clerk to not poll the jury, but to poll the commission.
Commissioners. Okay.
Friel, Weeks, and Flack.
Lloyd Friel, Cindy Weeks, and Randy Flack.
Randy Flack, Mark DeVerges, Cindy Weeks.
Randy Flack, Cindy Weeks, Lloyd Friel.
Black Weeks, Friel.
Randy Flack, Jeff Noblet, Cindy Weeks.
Just Randy Flack.
You just voted for one, just Flack.
Then it would be Randy Flack, Cindy Weeks, and Lloyd Friel.
Okay. Next, we have the Asheville Buncombe Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee. We have one nomination. Is there
Nominate Greta Bird.
any other nominations? All those in favor of Ms. Bird, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Ms. Bird is appointed. We have agreed by consensus to delay the audit committee. I'll instruct the clerk to 15 days, reopen the application process, schedule interviews after that, and we'll appoint after interviewing the candidates we have. Next, we have Board of Equalization and Review, one vacancy. Nominations?
Debbie Lane.
Debbie Lane's been nominated. Any other nominations and seconded? All those in favor of Debbie Lane, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Ms. Lane is appointed. I think we established in pre-session no need for a closed session, so I'll finish with announcements and a motion to adjourn. The next regular meeting of the commission will be held on April 15, beginning at 4:30 at room 236 of 200 College Street in downtown Asheville. Commission meetings can be seen on BC award-winning BC Charter Cable Channel 192, ATT Uverse Channel 99, live on BC TV Channel 192, and on buncombecounty.org during the meetings or online anytime at buncombecounty.org. Any other business to come before the board? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Commissioner Belcher. Is there a second by Commissioner King? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
All righty. Bye, everybody. No, I'm not. I do not want to go to Chick-fil-A.
Good program. We did good. Did good on that. It's Chick-fil-A. That's a ribbon cutting.
Thank you.